Hi, I'm Nick Lambert. I'm the CEO at Doc, and I'm joined today by Elina Cadouri, who is the COO and Co-Founder at Doc, and also Mike Parkhill, Solutions Architect. How are you doing today, guys?
Good. How are you?
I'm
Good?
good. Glad to be here.
Good, good. Well, we're going to talk today about really, as you get towards the end of a year, I think it's quite a natural human thing to look back about at what happened and also maybe to look forward a little bit, or at least peek into 2023. But predominantly here just to talk through really what 2022 meant to Doc and what we saw. And I'll kind of start things off, if that's okay, with kind of some of the kind of larger factors that really impacted the world at large, or certainly Doc's world at large. And what we found was increasingly we're relying more and more on digital data as kind of consumers. And during the course of 2022, we certainly are putting more and more data online than ever before. And looking even at some of these numbers in prep for this review, we're putting about 27% more data on, or we did do in 2022 over the previous year. And in terms of volume of data, it's absolutely massive. I tried to understand what these figures meant, but it's almost like 1 trillion gigabytes of extra data went on. So almost like a trillion films at 1080p went online. So we're putting tons of data online. But this is done at the backdrop of security being, increasingly a worry for us all. So we're seeing lots and lots of data breaches, which we probably all see every day. And there was about 15 million in Q3 this year. But I think as individuals, we're also becoming more and more worried about like what companies are doing with their data once they have it. And I think I found some information from a consumer research agency in the US called Pew Research. And it's almost 80% of us are kind of worried about what is being done with our data. And as we all know, it's very, very hard to keep large volumes of data safe. And when you group all this data in a central way, as is historically done, it's just too attractive for hackers to try and target, to get that data and basically sell it. So we have this kind of perfect storm of lots more data going online, and that data being increasingly insecure and something that we're worried about. And of course, if something is insecure, it's also not private, which is a massive concern. And then the final point I would make is kind of data fraud is becoming increasingly an issue as well. And we'd started to look into even things like certificate fraud, people that are maybe claiming to have skills that they don't have. And that's $1 billion industry. So whether that's fake degrees, fake compliance certificates, fake training, it's really, really big business. So I don't mean to start off this review on a really negative, depressing note, but certainly there's a few factors for us to be concerned about. But I would probably try and balance this a little bit and say that I think help is at hand, and think there's a number of organizations of which Doc is one, but there are many companies and organizations and individuals within the kind of identity and credentialing ecosystem that are working to make this better. And so I think it's just a matter of time before we can provide solutions that are the man in the street or the woman in the street can actually use easily. But certainly that's something that's being worked on. So I'd probably frame that conversation with all of those other things that are going on. And I don't know if you guys have any thoughts about any of that stuff.
No, I think you're right that the volumes of data are out there are huge these days, and privacy is such a big thing because when there is all that volumes of data, how do you protect it? And I think that's where we're coming in and the tools we're providing, and companies like us are building. I think that's all we're trying to get to with the Web3 and that kind of thing. So I think you're absolutely bang on all of that.
I think as well, it's like enabling the individuals to store their own data as well. And so like that not centralized location, or basically if we're each storing it, it almost puts the hacker out of business. Like how do they target, 1 million, 2 million, 5 million different people at once? It doesn't make economic sense for them to do it any longer. And so I think that's a big part of the issue that we're trying to solve.
Oh, absolutely. And I think you said 80% of people who are in the opinion poll or whatever where absolutely privacy is a major concern, they're worried about it. Well, how do we make it easy for them? Because I think that's one of the challenges is most of them don't know how to do it or where to go. And I think that's where the opportunities are in 2023 is making it easy for the average person to help take care of those worries.
Yeah, I think the UX is a major issue as well because there's quite a lot of companies with really good solutions for probably developers and technical people to use. And of course, like we're competing with, we're trying to, the expectations that people have around usability of software is really created by Web 2 and it has, or even Web 1 as well. And it has like a, 30 odd year longer head start on what we're trying to do. So certainly we've still got a way to go. But I think that's going to be the major thing, isn't it? Overcoming a lot of the UX issues as well and enabling people to use this stuff with ease. I think, Elina, you were kind of talking before as well about kind of big part of 2022 for you, and I know it's something you've been working on a lot yourself, is in and around the partnerships that Doc have been created and are continuing to create. I don't know if you can talk a little bit about that for us.
Yeah, definitely. I think 22 was a really exciting year for us when it came to customers and seeing adoption happening in various sectors with different use cases. It's pretty amazing to see this technology that we work on all day long actually in the hands of customers, with them issuing credentials to their recipients, whether those are students or workers or patients, and seeing them seeing them recognize the value that can be put behind credentials when they are, when they do use Doc's technology behind it. And I think it's also coming back to your point about UX too. I was thinking as well about the learnings for our team that we've received from these customers starting to use our technology, seeing how they're consuming it, the importance of having really good user experience, whether that's in making it easier for them to understand the technology or abstracting away a lot of the technical aspects of it. Things like high quality documentation and providing really good support to the partners in our ecosystem. So just to highlight kind of some of our really big, exciting ones, one of the big ones for me is Burst IQ. So Burst IQ is a company that's creating a data management platform called LifeGraph for different healthcare networks in the US that really helps to simplify but also enable managing things like privacy and compliance for patient healthcare records. And they're also using it for verifying health workers as well. And so they've adopted Doc's API in order to enable their customers to issue verifiable credentials for this health data. I think it's a really great use case that underlines a lot of the value behind verifiable credentials when it comes to things like privacy, in terms of individual data ownership, and really helps bring that into the healthcare sector, which is a very hard thing to do, especially here in the U.S., where it does tend to be slow moving. So it's been really exciting to see what Burst IQ's accomplished there, and that's a partnership that's going to really continue to grow into next year. So it'll be great to see what they do there. Another big one to highlight too from the year is Auth0. So Auth0 listed Doc's Web3 ID product in their marketplace. So Web3 ID is a blockchain-based tool for authentication and authorization, essentially allowing platforms to enable users to access their platforms using a DID, which is great because it essentially removes the need for these platforms to store private information for these users accessing their platforms, and really removes a lot of that liability for the platforms, and also enables a much more private experience for individuals. And I think, it's great that by integrating with Auth0, it's a great starting point, I think, for companies who are interested in starting to adopt kind of Web3 technologies to both understand the value and to make it kind of an easier access point for them to start bringing that into, their websites or the applications that they're building. Another big one for us is 7 Mile. So 7 Mile is an organization out of Australia, helping high school students learn real world skills and receive credentials for those that they can then present to employers in the future and really start building up kind of, things that would, typically not go onto a resume, but are demonstrating really valuable skill sets. And what's really cool, I think, with 7 Mile is they recognize that verifiable credentials and leveraging blockchain creates a way to put a lot more value behind a credential than a traditional paper certificate, and enabling these credentials to be fraud proof, that they're lifelong records that will maintain their the ability to verify them, even if 7 Mile as an organization disappears. And it's going to also be a really big one for us in the coming years, because they're planning to expand that out to 1,500 schools. So that will be, I think, really exciting to see, and a really good use case that highlights a lot of the value with verifiable credentials. And just kind of one final one to mention, which I think is also a really good partner for us, is Gravity Training, which is a South African company in the health and safety space. And so they're an organization that trains a lot of workers who work in construction or in kind of high risk environments on how to work at large height. So they have to be properly trained, and there's a lot of kind of compliance concerns. There's a lot of safety issues involved. So it's really important that these workers are properly trained, and that that the companies that are hiring them can verify that they are trained. So another really strong use case, I think, for verifiable credentials. And I know they also really like the ability to kind of automate and digitize the whole issuance process, and being able to, improve kind of business efficiency as well by using us. So for me, those are kind of the big highlights. I know both of you are pretty heavily involved in those partnerships as well. So I don't know if there's anything there that you want to kind of call out to that I might have missed about them.
I think you nailed them. I think the big thing that I see from those is the variety of not only the location of our partner, so like multiple different continents there, but also multiple different ways in which you can use verifiable credentials. So you have someone like Burst IQs maybe using it in multiple ways, the ability to control potentially healthcare records, but also and from a workforce setting, the ability for medical staff to be able to control and manage their own kind of training. You've got something like Auth0, which is using credentials for login, passwordless login. And then you've got maybe more traditional uses or more common uses with 7 Mile and Gravity, which is probably both can be lumped in with kind of education and training certification. So, but I think it just shows you like the different ways that credentials can be used, and then just the absolute global spread of companies looking to adopt the technology.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. It's interesting to see how in some ways verifiable credentials are kind of replacing traditional credentials, and then in other ways they're kind of unlocking new functionality that would have doesn't exist at all with traditional methods of credentialing. And I think that's that's really exciting for me, where seeing how customers are using this and adopting it, because there's so many learnings for us as well to understand better how how these credentials could bring them value.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think one of the cool things with each of these examples you've given is just they've been great partners from all of that. They've helped us learn new things about the spaces they're in, and they've given us fantastic feedback on improvements we can make. And it's just been it's a partnership, and I think using that word is important, and that it is a two-way street. And I think it's been great for us, and hopefully it will continue to be for them too.
Definitely. Yeah, partnerships have been interesting. I think that'll be something that's going to be exciting. I know there's quite a few discussions ongoing just now, and they continue to grow. I'll talk a little bit more about kind of adoption and stuff shortly. But Mike, I know a matter quite close to your heart, and also probably staring you in the face every day on your screen, are the kind of milestones that we're working through, and you're obviously kind of responsible for working through those milestones with the rest of the team as well. Do you want to talk a little bit about like the more kind of prominent milestones that we've managed to check off this year?
Yeah, sure. It's been a massive year for us, I think, as far as product deliveries go and features and things. And I'm kind of amazed when I look back at what we've accomplished this year. It's been a busy year, and I'm really proud of the team for what we've been able to do and what we've done for our customers and our partners in doing it. So I think the first one I have to mention is we launched Certs, which is our no-code solution for issuing and verifying credentials. And I think that wasn't even something that was really on our radar, I think, at the start of the year, but we realized very quickly it was something we needed and something that people wanted. And this, we built it, and I think it's been fantastic. It's helped drive a lot of engagement for us and bring people into us, and it helps make it real what we have. I think having the APIs and thing are fantastic, but it's easier when you can show us something and walk someone through the flow and sort of say, hey, this is what we're talking about, and this is how you might use it. So I think that's been absolutely huge. And over the year, obviously, it's grown. We've added new features like the template designer and things like that as we've gone along. And we'll continue to evolve and grow as we go and as we find new use cases and new improvements for it. So I think that is a very big thing that is going to continue to be a key cornerstone of what we're doing going forward into next year. One of the other things that I'm really excited about, and this sort of speaks to the fact that we have two sets of customers in our world. We've got the customers with the verifiable credentials and the decentralized identity and that kind of thing. But we also have the customers who they help drive our blockchain network, so the token holders and the validators and all that. And so we have to deliver some features for them, some functionality for them through the year. And this year, one of the big ones we did for them was integration with a Ledger Nano wallet. So this allowed us to provide support to a hardware wallet that's really well used out in the industry, that's well recognized. It was a big thing to get sort of adoption through token holders and to sort of show our credibility in the space. So that one to me was a massive thing to get that out there for them, to get that integration out. It's one we started in 2021, and it took a while to get through all the final approvals, but to get it out in 2022, I think was a very big step for us and a big milestone for us. So I was really excited and proud of that one when it came through. And then speaking of wallets, we have our wallet, which we launched in 2021 initially, which was, again, focused on the token holders to begin with. But then this year, we started adding more functionality to it, more features to it for the verifiable credential customers. And that's where we brought in the ability to manage verifiable credentials and to manage decentralized identifiers, your DIDs, within the wallet, which, again, are huge pieces that we need to bring into the ecosystem for ourselves. It helps sort of round out the holder experience of having credentials. And we're going to, again, keep building on that going into 2023. There's a lot more we can do to make that better, make the user experience better. As we were talking about earlier, user experience is a huge thing. So the more we can make it simple and easy and seamless for the user, so they're not even really thinking about what they're doing, the better it will be. And so I think these functionalities and what we added this year are sort of the base layers of what we're going to be doing going forward, and we can just keep getting better on that. So getting those out, getting that functionality into the wallet was really, really a big thing. And sticking with the wallet, the next sort of major milestone that was kind of another one that sort of came out of the blue for us. We weren't sort of planning on it just at the start of the year. If you talked to us in January, this wouldn't have even been anywhere in our thoughts, is the idea of being able to white label the wallet. So we had customers who were like, hey, we need a wallet for our customers. We like your wallet. Can you put our logo on it? We're like, hey, it's a good idea. So we did. So I'm kind of really proud about that. So we actually have the ability now to take the doc wallet that hopefully everyone's already seen and played with. But now for a third-party customer, they can come and say, okay, well, let's put our colors into it, our themes into it, our logos, that kind of thing into it. And I think that's a big step. I think it will help again with the adoption. And it helps get people sort of out and into the system and that kind of thing. So again, kudos to the team on getting that out. I'm really kind of happy that we were able to do that. I think that'll open up a lot of doors for us for the technology as we go forward. And then Elina mentioned one earlier with the Auth0 is the Web3 ID launch. So again, this is one I think is another interesting way of using verifiable credentials and DIDs that maybe not have been obvious right away because it's not, we're just replacing a degree or a password or whatever. This is how do you authenticate yourself? How do you prove who you are quickly and easily? And it can work with the Web 2 world. So it's sort of helping bridge that Web 3 and Web 2 ecosystem in space. And I think that is, again, massive for adoption, and I think has a lot of potential as we go forward. So I think that one, again, was a big thing. And obviously the Auth0 partnership with that, again, just sort of supercharged that as a really cool thing. And I'm quite excited about it, as you can probably tell. And then as the years gone on, we've started getting into some of the anonymous credentials sort of stuff. So zero knowledge proofs and BBS plus signing and that kind of stuff, which we actually started doing blockchain work on that a year ago. But it's one of those things that took some time to do the blockchain side of it and then to get it rolled out. So we now have it rolled out into our APIs. You can now issue credentials using that technology. We're putting it into the wallet, which is going to be released in the next couple of weeks. And it just sort of is that next big step of verifiable credentials. Anyone you talk to is like, hey, do you have zero knowledge proofs? Do you have anonymous credentials? That kind of thing. So I think getting that into the ecosystem, getting it pulled through our application set is a major piece. So I'm really, really proud of how we've gotten there and where we're going with that. And there's other things I could go into detail, but I think I'll stop there. But yeah, we've had a busy year, and I think it's been an exciting year, and I'm quite happy with where we are.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. And I think a big thing, like, as you're talking about the white label wallet, like at the start of the year, it felt like we were defining as a team the milestones very much so, which, as we all know, is a tricky thing to do because you're trying to second guess what partners in the future will want, and you really don't know. So you're kind of torturing yourself over quite difficult decisions where you can never have enough information. And so it's so much easier when you start working with partners who say, I want this, I want that. And they can specify it for you. And then we can say, okay, we can go and build that. So I think one thing that became more apparent to me as we went through the year is as the partnerships grew and the number of companies and orgs that we're working with grew, they were able to tell us what they wanted. It made our planning lives like a million times easier. And we still had the implementation challenges, but we knew that we were building stuff that was going to be used. So that was certainly a comfort as we went through the year.
Oh, 100%. And I think that's just going to keep getting better. I think getting those user feedback loops, and we're getting them more frequently now, as you say, the partnerships and the customers grow. And it helps so much, and it helps clarify where we're going and helps us prioritize. Sometimes we've had some things that aren't already out that people are like, no, or it just doesn't come up. Mm-hmm. So but I think that's one of the great things is we can adjust and we can learn, and definitely that feedback cycle is huge.
I think then kind of segueing now into talking about partnerships, one of the things that we try and consider at Doc as well is like, are we making progress? I think obviously every kind of young business or any business full stop should be looking at that. And so we're trying to figure out how's our adoption moving along this year. We talk a lot about these different partners we're working with, but how is it changing over time? So we had a quick look at from February to June, so that 5-month stretch, and then we looked at the 5 months from July to the end of November, because obviously we're still going through December. And interestingly, what we saw was something like a 250% growth in the trials that we offer. So, of course, Doc are offering trials, like free trials on our testnet or some free transactions on our mainnet to figure out like how would they use Doc, what's it like to use, what do I get, and the number of those trials going up by that amount is really, really encouraging. And in terms of kind of real numbers, it went from something like 1,100 signups across, we think about 200 organizations. There could be multiple signups from one, but we'll just assume for the sake of this discussion that there was one per organization. 200 organizations involved. And then for the 5 months after that, it changed to 1,500 signups across almost 500 trials. So big changes there. And hopefully we'll continue to see that growth moving forward, which is really exciting. In terms of community growth, we're starting to see that across some of the different channels that we have. So a big thing for us this year was, as you know, moving into Discord a lot more. And this is for some technical inquiries that seem to come in there. But again, Mike, you talked at the start about the different audiences that we have, and probably more of the crypto audience will appreciate Discord and using that, and having questions and enabling us to interact with them a lot more. And I think Discord enables a much kind of nicer, longer form way of communicating. Some of the other channels, whilst great for maybe broadcasting messages, are not quite so rich in terms of that two-way feedback. So things like Twitter, Telegram, and things where it's really difficult to get into a kind of meaningful discussion. So I think a big thing for us was Discord this year, and we've put a lot of time and effort into that. And I think opening up to the Turkish community a lot more as well. So we saw that we had quite a large following there. It's a country that, for various kind of economic reasons, probably have embraced crypto more than many, and so it made sense to try and embrace that language, and started to move a lot of our materials into Turkish, and kind of employed some of the team from there as well, which has been interesting. And I think the big thing that we would probably say this year is we're still building for the long term. And I think that in a difficult year, which I think you could probably say 2022 was, from a kind of like the economy of the crypto economy has been difficult. Everyone calls it a crypto winter. But I think like what you see out of these times is the long-term projects, the ones that are thinking and really caring more about what they're building, they're the ones that keep going and keep innovating. And the ones that were maybe in it for the quick hit or the short term, they tend to fade away and disappear. So Doc is still here. We're stronger than ever. And but it's certainly been an interesting year from that perspective. I think it's also maybe a good time to talk about what do you want most from 2023. Do you want to go first, Elina?
Sure, yeah. I think what I would love most to see is just continued customer adoption. We have a new sales manager who's joining our team right at the start of January, and he brings a lot of experience with growing customer base for a SaaS company, kind of starting from, a small base and really expanding that out. And I think timing is really good for us, where we are seeing a lot of organizations coming and checking out Doc, speaking to the numbers that you just shared, Nick, and bringing, having somebody in who's going to be really dedicated to engaging with customers, reaching out to new potential customers, helping communicate, connect what we're building and our products to what the needs are of these customers. So I think it's great timing to really putting a lot of effort behind that and hopefully growing that engagement. And another thing I'm really excited about as well is I think our marketing team has been doing a phenomenal job with the content that they're putting out, being so early in the decentralized identity space and in blockchain and kind of these early industries. Education plays a really big role, especially with us, where we are working with a lot of traditional organizations, and being able to communicate well what we're doing, what we're building, why it's important is really challenging. And I think our team is doing a really great job about putting out kind of thoughtful, interesting content. And I know they're going to only continue to do that into the new year, especially leveraging different channels as well. So I think for me, those are the two kind of big items that I'm really looking forward to next year.
Nice.
What
Yeah,
about
thanks
you?
for that.
Yeah, what about you, Mike?
Yeah, I think all those things are very exciting, and I'm glad you brought up the good work of the marketing team too. I think I was going to bring that up to, we've seen a lot of growth in that, and you've seen it in those numbers that Nick mentioned. I think it all plays into it. And I know it's not easy when you're trying to teach and entice and all that at the same time. So I think we're doing a great job there, and I think we're going to keep doing a great job there. And to that end, I think one of the things that's going to help us with our visibility and our knowledge is marketplace integration. So we did the product hunt thing with the Web3 ID recently. We did Auth0 earlier in the year. And coming up in 2023, we're going to continue doing that, getting into marketplaces. We're going to get in connection with developers and users and that kind of thing more often. So I think we've already talked about Rapid API being on our roadmap, so getting integrated onto their marketplace, which I think will be big. It'll get us in front of a whole lot of software developers, which is a huge piece of where we want to go and where we want to be. So I think that'll be a great one. And we're also looking at putting more into Product Hunt. So, putting Doc Certs as a listing on Product Hunt, I think will be another good thing for us. So I think we've got a lot of opportunity there with third-party marketplaces that we can get our name out there, get our tools out there, and sort of push that, get ourselves better seen out there. So I think those are all exciting things. And then just technically on the product side, there's a lot of new features that we're still working on. There's finishing up the zero knowledge proof and VBS Plus things that I was talking about before. I think we're really close on that, and I think we'll continue driving that because I think those are a huge piece of what people are asking for and what they need. So I'm very excited about getting that stuff out. And then I think I sort of view 2022, one of the things we were doing was getting the basic toolkit developed for verifiable credentials and self-sovereign identity. And I think 2023 will finish that work that we started, and it'll give us a chance to then start looking at the meaty problems around user experience and making it better and easier to adopt and all that kind of thing. I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity for us to take that user feedback that we've already gotten, and I'm hoping to get a lot more user feedback as the year goes on, and sort of just keep driving to make the products better and easier to use and faster and more secure. All those things that you want to do with a software project. And I think we're going to have that opportunity to really push and drive that functionality and make our customers happy.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. And I'd agree as well. Like, I think there's probably not too much more I would add than what you guys have said. I think that for 2023, for me, I think the wallet has been a big part of the end of 22. And I think it will continue to be so in 23. And I think that's where, like we've talked a little bit on this review about user experience. I think a wallet is massive there. Like onboarding people into these different credentialing ecosystems is going to be a challenge that we will need to overcome, like the industry as a whole has to. And I think there's a lot that we're doing there to try and make the wallet much more fully functional, Mike, like you said as well, and enabling users to not only kind of store credentials and import them into the wallet, but then also to do different things about being able to present them in certain ways, sometimes not necessarily revealing all of the information that exists in the credential itself, using things like zero knowledge proofs, like you mentioned. I think that's going to be really powerful for us. I think as well, like Elina said, I'm looking forward to all the different partnership discussions. It's always interesting to see how different companies and organizations are using this technology and the innovation just in terms of how like our partners adopt APIs and our no-code solutions is pretty amazing as well. And it's almost every day you hear of this amazing new use case. So I think I'm most excited about that as well. But certainly it looks like 2023 is going to be a good one. Well, I think that's it for this. I think we could probably talk all day, but probably at the risk of boring anyone who's watching this. So we'll probably call it a wrap there. But yeah, 2022 has been a really good one. And we're definitely looking forward to the coming year. Elina, Mike, thanks for joining me.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Nick.
Thank you, Nick.